Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's sure to spark your interest. That is 10 countries where Americans are not welcomed in 2025. In 2025, certain countries remain significantly off-limits or present extreme challenges for American travelers. This is due to various reasons, from political tensions and security risks to ongoing conflicts. Some countries are openly hostile, while others are more nuanced in their restrictions. Here are the top 10 countries where Americans face considerable obstacles or danger if they attempt to visit. Number 10. North Korea. North Korea is among the most isolated nations in the world, and Americans face significant barriers to entry. Since 2017, the US government has enforced a travel ban, only allowing entry with special waivers, which are rarely granted. The country is tightly controlled, with every visitor monitored by government-assigned guides. Straying from the approved itinerary can result in arrest or even forced labor. The risks of imprisonment for minor infractions, like possessing literature deemed subversive or engaging in unauthorized activities, have made headlines. In addition to the political risks, the high cost of organized tours, which can exceed $2,000 for a 5-day trip, makes it an undesirable destination. North Korea's tense relationship with the US and its strict surveillance measures make it a country that most Americans are better off avoiding. Number 9. Iran. Iran boasts a rich cultural heritage, including ancient sites like Persepolis and stunning mosques. However, due to decades of strained relations between Iran and the United States, American tourists face numerous challenges. In 2025, travelers from the US must obtain a visa pre-approved by the Iranian government and are generally required to be part of an escorted tour. The US State Department advises against travel due to ongoing political tensions, and Americans are often viewed with suspicion, closely watched by guides during their stay. There have been cases of American visitors detained on charges like espionage. Iran's political landscape is hostile toward the US, and the country's ongoing economic challenges, including inflation, make it a pricey destination for American travelers. Despite its historical and cultural allure, the risks make Iran a place that should be approached with caution. Number 8. Syria. Syria, once a thriving tourist destination known for its ancient ruins like those in Palmyra, has become a no-go zone due to the ongoing civil war and the presence of extremist groups. The US government has a blanket advisory against travel to Syria, and American visitors face grave risks, including kidnapping and violence. The conflict has displaced millions of people, and extremist groups like ISIS still operate in some areas. Americans are considered high-value targets, and the absence of a functioning US embassy means there is little help if things go wrong. Many of Syria's historic sites have been destroyed, and essential infrastructure like electricity and clean water is in short supply. For Americans, the hazards far outweigh any historical interest in the country's past. Number 7. Venezuela. Venezuela was once a thriving tourist destination, known for its natural wonders like Angel Falls and the Orinoco Delta. But in 2025, the country faces economic collapse, widespread crime, and increasing anti-American sentiment. The US government has imposed sanctions on Venezuela, and Americans are often viewed with suspicion. Caracas, the capital, has one of the highest crime rates in the world, with robbery and extortion common. Corrupt officials frequently target foreigners for bribes, and Venezuela's hyperinflation means that even the most basic goods are expensive. While the country's beauty remains, the risks of traveling there are high. The economic and security issues, along with political tensions, make Venezuela a dangerous destination for Americans. Number 6. Yemen. Yemen, with its ancient cities like Sana'a and its otherworldly Socotra archipelago, has become one of the most dangerous countries for Americans. The ongoing civil war has fragmented the country, and extremist groups control many parts of it. The US State Department advises against all travel to Yemen, warning that Americans are often targeted by factions hostile to the US. Kidnappings of foreign nationals are a real threat, and there is no US embassy in the country to provide consular support in case of emergencies. Basic amenities like electricity and clean water are scarce in many regions, and Yemen's infrastructure is severely damaged. Despite its cultural and natural beauty, Yemen's security risks and lack of essential services make it an impossible and unsafe destination for Americans. Number 5. Russia. Russia, with its vast cultural and historical landmarks, has become a more complicated and potentially risky destination for Americans. Following the political fallout from the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and other geopolitical tensions, anti-American sentiment has grown. In 2025, Russia has implemented stricter visa processes and surveillance measures for U.S. citizens. The U.S. State Department has warned of the risks of detention or harassment, and even journalists can be accused of espionage. Russia's legal system is very different from that of the U.S., and even small infractions can lead to fines or arrests. The lack of a functioning U.S. embassy in Moscow further complicates matters. For those willing to brave the challenges, Russia's cultural treasures like St. Petersburg's Hermitage Museum or Lake Baikal remain attractions, but the risks associated with visiting the country are significant in 2025. Number 4. Cuba. Cuba, a country rich in history and culture, has long attracted American travelers, but restrictions remain. Following decades of political tension, U.S. travelers can only visit Cuba under specific circumstances such as family visits, educational purposes, or humanitarian projects. Leisure tourism is still prohibited under U.S. law, and travelers must be cautious to avoid fines or penalties. The Cuban government remains wary of Americans, and there have been reports of surveillance and questioning. Despite Cuba's vibrant music, dance, and architecture, visiting the island requires navigating a maze of travel restrictions, and the U.S. government's restrictions make it a difficult destination for Americans. Number 3. Afghanistan. Afghanistan's rugged landscapes and ancient cultural sites have long been an attraction for adventurous travelers. However, since the Taliban's return to power in 2021, Afghanistan has become one of the most dangerous countries for Americans to visit. The risks of kidnapping and violence remain high, and the U.S. State Department has issued a do not travel advisory. Afghanistan's infrastructure is damaged, with many roads impassable and frequent power outages. The Taliban's hostile stance toward the U.S. and the ongoing security situation mean that Americans are often viewed with suspicion. While Afghanistan has immense cultural and historical significance, the lack of safety and support makes it a destination that is best avoided. Number 2. Somalia. Somalia, known for its beautiful coastline along the Indian Ocean, remains one of the most unstable and dangerous countries for travelers. The ongoing civil conflict, piracy, and the presence of extremist groups like Al-Shabaab make it a high-risk destination for Americans. The U.S. State Department has placed Somalia under a do not travel advisory due to the high likelihood of violence, kidnappings, and terrorist attacks. Many parts of the country lack reliable infrastructure, and basic services like electricity and clean water are scarce. Somalia has no U.S. embassy, making it nearly impossible for Americans to get assistance in emergencies. Despite its cultural wealth, the risks in Somalia are too great for most travelers. Number 1. Libya. Libya ranks as the most dangerous and unwelcoming country for Americans in 2025. The political instability and ongoing civil conflict since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi have made the country a volatile destination. The U.S. government maintains a level 4 do not travel advisory, citing high risks of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. Libya lacks a functioning U.S. embassy, leaving American travelers without consular support in case of trouble. The lack of safety, coupled with hostility toward Western visitors, makes Libya one of the least accessible countries for Americans. Although Libya has ancient ruins like Leptis Magna and a stunning Mediterranean coastline, the security risks overshadow these attractions, making Libya a country best avoided in 2025. These 10 countries represent some of the most unwelcoming or dangerous places for American travelers in 2025. Political tensions, ongoing conflicts, and the lack of basic infrastructure make these countries extremely risky for tourists. Whether due to the threat of violence, hostile government relations, or unstable conditions, travelers should consider these factors carefully when planning their international adventures.